The brand new BMW X2. In this video, I'm going to cover the technical highlights, the pros and cons, and who this is for. Let's get started with this. The previous generation X2 did not sell well in the United States. It did far better in Europe. So for this generation, they put a lot more money on the outside, inside, and the platform it's on. And I think a lot of it, the previous generation X2 was kind of a cop-out of an SUV. It was just there just to exist. But all the commodity brands had caught up. The RAV4s, the CR-Vs, the RDXs, and the Hyundais and Kias just did more than what you got in the BMW X2, and nobody wanted it. So what you get here is essentially two trim levels, the 28 and then the 35, which I'm in right now. And what they've attempted to do is make it a bigger vehicle to start. So there's more cargo capacity, there's more human capacity. It's a longer wheelbase. Even with the coupified rear roof, that sloped rear roof, you still have great cargo capacity, although it does limit headroom in the back a little bit. Again, this is not trying to be a full-blown family vehicle. You can fit 3 or 4 people in here very comfortably. You can put a car seat in the back. But again, this is for a younger person that wants to get into like a 2 or 3 year lease. So you can get a lease for about $650 for the lower trim level and about $750 for the M35i, which is what I'm in right now. And the good thing about this is the outside, you know, as much as it is very, very polarizing, it's got that iX look, that XM look, or X6. They're not trying to be like every other SUV because there's enough of those. So it's far more like aggressively overstyled. You can get a lit up front grille. You can get 21-inch wheels, which is hilarious on a 4-cylinder. And you get great paint options. Like that's one thing that some of these Nerf vehicles don't get. You can get some really cool looking paint, including this frozen silver on this 35 trim level. But the inside is where you can trim out or spec this out for different color interiors. You can get these great seats on the M Sport version that look almost like M car seats. It's no longer feeling super generic. The alloys on the dash look really good. The dash stitching looks authentic. Even the materials, and despite this being all synthetic leather and Alcantara, it looks really nice. So again, it depends on how much you want to spend. The lower trim level, you can spec this out to the upper 40s, lower 50s, and it's great what you get. When you get to the M version, the M Sport version, yes, it goes up to about $60,000, and I will tell you that a lot of that is not worth it. Again, $650 to start on a lease, and you can go up to about $750. So interior space, big door storage, you can fit a big bottle. The center console area is a little bit limited in the armrest, but you have under storage here. Your wireless charger is great because there's a door that closes on your phone so it doesn't go sliding and you still have visibility to it. Cup holders are pretty well designed. You have good ports here for USB-C to charge your phone, which is what everybody's going to care about. And the infotainment is the traditional threaded screen, although it's the Nerf version of iDrive 9. It seems slower to operate, and there is definitely some software issues in terms of connectivity wireless through Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. There is frequent buffering issues, which means your music stops or your phone calls get lagged out or delayed, or just straight up disconnections from your phone like all the time. So I think there's some over-the-air updates to do here. It is very frustrating. However, when you go up to some of the premium packages, you get the Harman Kardon audio, and after coming out of the AKG in the Cadillac Lyriq, I will say the Harman in here just sounds good. Right away, you turn it on, you leave everything flat. It sounds really good to the ear. The mids and the highs don't sound crass, and the bass isn't overwhelming. And when you look at the graphs, yes, there's a little bit more harmonic distortion in the lower end, but as you get to the higher end, it starts to really smooth itself out. And the only issues are in some of the vocal frequency ranges where you get some drops in your frequency response around 300 hertz. Again, this is pretty common for this price category, but audibly, it tests pretty well and it sounds better than it tests. So I'm going to leave it at that. But everything else in terms of usability is typical BMW stuff. They're trying to split the gap. They know this is for a younger audience, so they get rid of an iDrive knob. Everything is touch, which is, you know, a lot of brands say this. We're getting rid of physical controls because the younger generation is used to touch everything. There's still some physical knobs, buttons, and switches in here, which is great, and there's a good balance between touch. Overall comfort, usability in here is pretty good overall. The visibility is great. This is a car on stilts, so you have good command of the road without going to a bigger vehicle. But let's head into the shop and talk about some of the technical tidbits. Let's talk about the mechanical stuff. Much like I talked about in the interior, this is a global vehicle, so depending on your market, you might have different drivetrain options and specs. For the United States, we get two trim levels, the 28 and the M35i. Both are on the UKL2 front-wheel drive platform with on-demand all-wheel drive systems as standard by default. Doesn't matter what trim level you get. There's two variations of the B48 engine, which I'll go into in a second. They are paired to a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission that also has a mechanical limited slip baked in right from the get-go. So it doesn't matter what trim you get, you're getting a little bit of everything you need from a BMW. In terms of engine, both B48s, the lower trim level, the 28, gets a new 2-liter turbocharged engine. It has a higher compression ratio, but the big thing here is it has direct and port injection. So if you're looking to buy this used or to buy it, that might be the better long-term option. The other B48 gets a bigger turbo, more boost, and it borrows some of the technologies from their modular engine family, namely the inline-6. So variable valve timing, strengthened internals. Again, it makes more power. So if you're looking for more output, that's the one. The other thing that this vehicle does is it gives you more options in terms of configurability. When you do the M packages, you can get M brakes with there's still steel or cast iron discs, but you can do M compound pads and bigger front calipers. The other thing they've added here is 21-inch wheels and tire combos. On a 4-cylinder, I mean, that's up to you. Just be aware that the tire costs are going to be at a minimum of $300 a piece. Fine if you're leasing, bad if you're buying. Be aware of it. So what have they done to the body? They've improved it greatly because one of the things they wanted to do is reduce torque steer. You're putting a lot of power to the front wheels. Obviously, with on-demand all-wheel drive system, they can shoot some of the power to the back. But a lot of this starts with controlling that power. So they've redone the front suspension, new geometry, new kinematics. They've added more caster angle, so stability in the front. They've changed the way that some of the bushings are designed. There's aluminum housings over the mounts. The rear subframe is rigidly mounted to the back. Some of these changes are very subtle, but it's the mechanical implementation of them. So let's start with how they've smoothed things out. Well, one, they've updated the steering rack. It's a Servotronic unit, more linear, more one-to-one feeling than some of the M performance steering where it's like hyperactive. This is a really natural feeling. The other thing they've done is change the dampers. They've added additional oil flow path on the rebound side. So it feels more soft without being, I don't know, too boaty. There's really good body control. It feels flat without giving you that huge knocking effect of some of the sports suspensions. I mean, it's not the softest thing on the planet, but again, it's about finessing the sport and kind of the comfortable luxury part. The other big thing is changes to the way the stability control system works. They start with the engine because advanced electronics allows them to cut timing, to cut boost, to reduce torque output without leaning on the DSC controller. If you just lean on the stability control system, when you're turning and losing grip, it's always grabbing a brake, right? You hear that ABS pump. It's trying to slow you down with brakes. So they're able to reduce power out of the engine to slow the car down to get it more balanced while balancing the mechanical limited slip and of course the on-demand all-wheel drive system. So again, it's about trying to give you a front-wheel drive platform that doesn't particularly feel like it while still giving you some of the luxury. It's a hard balance, but let's see how it works on the road.
You hear that, Mark? That's the power of B48.
B48, take me to the tanning salon, Jack. I need a tan now.
All right, let's see if this will do launch control. That's some serious M performance.
Yeah, if you ever wanted to hear your transmission shift through the speakers, this is the car for you. Yeah, so let's get started with this part. Clearly, the buying demographic of this car is not a traditional enthusiast. This is not somebody that is like, oh, I gotta have a sports car, right? It's trying to inject some soul, some creativity into a segment of cookie cutter SUVs, because every brand has one. And in many cases, the commodity CUVs and SUVs are so good now that BMW can no longer just make like a regular BMW. They had to tart everything up, and that goes it's not just the way it looks, it's all of this stuff, the electronic part, the sound part that they're trying to put in here, at least on the M version of this, or the M Sport version. What do you think about that part of it?
I think if this is, your first premium-ish, performance-ish SUV or car, there are elements of this you're really going to like. It is quick for an SUV.
Yeah.
This engine, while there is a lot of low down lag, makes a ton of torque. So when you are in that 2,000 to 4,000 or 4,500 RPM band, you have a lot of power you're working with. The dual clutch has some theater to it with all the pops and cracks, but I will say this dual clutch does not feel anywhere as good as a dual clutch feels in a real performance car. It doesn't feel like the old MDCTs, it doesn't feel like the Tremec and the Vets and the Maseratis or the PDK. There is a weird torque dip in between shifts, and it feels like you can actually feel the clutches slip and unslip and engage the next gear.
Again, it's counterintuitive because this is not supposed to be like an enthusiast product, yes. Right? So a lot of the things that people in a traditional sense, a front wheel drive vehicle, it's supposed to be an entry level luxury product that's more about style and lifestyle. So you put that dual clutch in here that has an extreme problem with getting off the line, because not only that, you have the stop start system. So that delay off the line from a stoplight, from a stop sign, it always feels like the car's dead for the first 2 seconds. So like if you have to merge out or something, it's such an awkward feeling car that their torque converted automatic does not have these problems with the dual clutch. Yeah. And I think it makes it a worse car for it.
I agree. You can hear it too when you launch this thing. It's slipping engages.
Yeah, and you have to do launch control to get rid of some of that delay. If you just do a regular start, like nobody's going to drive in sport mode. They're going to drive in normal mode where you're not hearing the fake engine noise.
Old man mode or personal mode now.
Yeah, that's when it just dies. There's literally a 2 second lag, and if you have not, sport transmission set, just drive and it stops, starts it, it's like there's something broken on the car. That's what it feels like. And to a normal person who doesn't understand what's going on, they're going to be like, why is this car not moving? Yep. So it's counterintuitive. It's not doing some of the things that the commodity vehicles in smoothness, refinement have with a regular transmission, while trying to deliver this faux sport of this that's not really that great. I mean, nobody cares about direct shifts and something like this. So I think they're breaking some of it by being so different, while also it does make it unique.
Yes.
I'm not sure it makes
it's got a lot of character.
Yes, I'm not sure it's better for it, but again, it's one of the drivability things that I think that hampers what this car could really be.
Yeah, this does not have a VGRS rack. It's just a linear rack. It's very quick in traditional, like BMW sense. Not a lot of feel, but very direct, and it helps this rather large SUV get in and out of corners well. Put it back into sport so you can hear it, Mark. Brakes. The front diff, when you're driving it, sort of these grip levels, like 7/6, does a good job pulling you through. On the front end, starts to wash out like a traditional on-demand system. It sends power to the back. I mean, it's a very intuitive car, and if again you've not driven like a Macan or an X3 or an X5 quickly, you're coming from like an NX. This is going to feel remarkably dynamic and engaging to drive. It's just, if you have this idea that this is going to feel like an M car or a Macan or some like real sports car despite the M badge, this is not going to be the vehicle for you.
This is purely a lifestyle vehicle.
Yes.
A one that is compromised in favor of trying to give you more than a commodity car.
It's relatively quiet though.
Yes, it is.
It's on the firm side, but it's not hyper punishing.
Right.
And you have a lot of low end torque. So if you do care about that when you're in gear, it feels quick.
And it doesn't matter what engine you choose. And clearly, I think personally, the lower trim level makes a lot of sense because you don't have as much power, but just enough power. Both trim levels, the M and the non-M, they have a ton of torque from like 2,500 RPM to 4,500. So there's a lot of power down low, or a lot of torque. And the power curve is actually really linear too. And not only does it build smooth torque, but it builds smooth power. So I think most people are going to get in here are going to really be blown away by it, namely compared to, even like something like an RDX or, a CRV or RAV4. It's going to have that wow factor of, if you don't have these huge, like, knowledge base of different cars, this delivers a lot. I like the character of it. I'm not on board with some of the style, but I get why they're doing it.
Yeah, good visibility,
yes.
Nice interior space. To your point, in your interior segment, this no longer feels like a discount BMW. These seats feel like they're out of an M3. You have the two screens. You can argue they don't work that well, but the material choices, the doors, I mean, this thing does feel like an entry-level luxury product in a good way.
Yeah, agreed.
So with that, Mark, let's head into the final thoughts here as we're stuck behind this giant dump truck.
Since we talked a lot about this being a global car, it's going to sell more in different markets. This may not be as applicable to the United States market where people are more fickle, where you're looking at X3s and X5s and bigger vehicles all the time. This is supposed to be that gateway vehicle for someone that doesn't care about outright performance, that just wants a little bit of fun, style. They're banking on people looking at this kind of like they do the iX or the XM and some of the X6, right? They don't want a traditional cookie cutter SUV, while some of the commodity SUVs might be better for family use, like the CR-Vs, the RAV4s of the world. This isn't trying to do it, right? You're going to carry maybe 2 or 3 people around. You don't need a ton of cargo capacity. You don't need towing. You don't need space. And you don't care whether it's rear-wheel drive or not. So in terms of the technology, they've masked and improved the front-wheel drive platform quite a bit. It drives pretty good. It's still a little bit firm. The safety suite and all of that works very well in traditional BMW fashion. Sometimes it's a little bit aggressive. The technology, iDrive 9, seems to have some serious deficiencies in this car that will probably be patched over the air, like many cars, fix it later. But definitely it is a problem. It's something you're going to want to test. The continual dropouts and Android Auto and, of course, Apple CarPlay and buffering issues with music dropping or just reconnects are a big thorn in its side. The audio system sounds pretty good and actually tests well. So again, it's a mixed bag. My option would be just to get to the lower trim level and get it close to $50,000 and you'll be very happy with it. Also, if you're looking at this on the used market, the 28 variant with the dual injection 2-liter turbocharged engine will probably be a safer option in the long term. But I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.